I'm Alex Trebek. What is it that turns an ordinary person into someone capable of heroic action? Somehow, is a construction worker by vocation, but his hobby is collecting Indian artifacts. This is not an activity he ever expected would bring him face to face with his own mortality, but on May 7th, 1991, while on a dig, Rudy suddenly had to risk his own life, or two young children would lose theirs.
Rudy and his wife Sharon were teenage sweethearts. They went their separate ways and then came back to each other's lives and got married 6 years ago. Rudy's interest in artifacts also began in his teens.
Am I going for a ride? Dad and I were working in the garden one year, and I found my first airhead in the garden while we were working in the garden, and that really kind of set it off for me. And every chance I'd get, if I'd hear about a place where I was close to where I was working, every time I'd get a chance, I'd go and look and try to see what I could find.
He found this arrowhead, and this is the one he gave me when we were in the 7th grade. Are they okay?
An impromptu trip into the bayou to search for native arrowheads on this May 7th was a last-minute whim for Rudy. He didn't know what was compelling him to go to this particular place at this precise moment, but he felt strongly that it had to be there, and it had to be now.
Okay, inside. Here we go. Both of you in. Come on. Alicia. Okay. In.
Sharon Thompson and her children Alicia, 3, and Eddie, 2, live about 40 miles outside of Cypress, in a relatively isolated setting near the old river, and near the spot Rudy Berneman was hoping would turn up a find or two for him. They had no idea their lives were about to become intertwined with Rudy's. And Rudy had no idea that he was about to profoundly affect the future of this family he had never met. Rudy went down to the river alone. Sharon didn't mind going along for the drive, but she wasn't interested in poking around in the underbrush.
Okay, put it back. Put it back. That's dangerous.
Sharon Thompson's trailer home was almost directly across the river from where Rudy's impulse had taken him.
You guys be quiet. I'll be right back.
On Rutherford, we talk about prostitution. Is there any way to control it? Should we try? Monday on ITV.
I'm Darren Detition, inviting you to join us this Thursday night. We're going to take the show on the road to Wetaskiwin. Sports night, live at 11 at the Boston Pizza out there. If you can't come down for the show, make sure you tune in at home. It's Sports night, live at 11 and only on ITV.
Don't let imposters fool you.
Never!
There's still only one place to see all new episodes of The Simpsons.
Hey, everybody! Whoa, look at me! I'm over here!
Monday nights at 7 here on ITV.
Think healthier looking, shinier hair like this only happens in the movies? Nah, it can happen every day with Pantene Pro V.
Pantene gets right to the root where healthier looking hair begins.
Kirsty's hair wasn't always so glamorous until she found Pantene. Pro vitamins penetrate into the root, while our conditioning formula improves hair all the way to the tips.
Hair this good deserves a close-up.
Pantene Pro V shampoo and conditioner. For hair so healthy looking, it shines.
Pro vitamins. I know they're in there.
We're showering in our swimsuits to settle an argument. Which leaves your skin feeling cleaner? My sister's regular soap or my Zest? After rinsing and drying, Mary's swimsuit had soap residue. Mine had none.
This film is left on my skin after a shower?
Right. Zest doesn't leave a sticky soap film. I wouldn't want that on my skin.
Well, from now on, I'm using your Zest.
See? Zest rinses cleaner than your soap.
Zest. No soap leaves your skin cleaner.
At City Ford, get any new truck. Do not pay till summer, then only pay half. 50% off. 50% off your payments. Yes, you only pay half till Labor Day. We pay the rest. Like no...
So I ran up a little further, and I could see that the car had run off into the water, into the river. And about that time, the lady come running out of the trailer screaming and hollering. And she was hollering, Alicia, get in the back, Alicia, get in the back. And I said, somebody's in trouble. There's some kids drowning. There's somebody drowning in the car.
Drowned? I'm pretty clumsy myself, and when I started down after him, I can't swim, so I knew I couldn't go any farther than right there at the water. I wouldn't be any help to him. He went back after the second one and then brought him up the bank. And then came back and got the one that I was holding and got her up, and then I crawled on up there. After we got up there, the mother was still real hysterical. And Rudy told us, well, we have to go get him some help.
We have to get help. I ain't got no phone. Where's the post office? This is the store. Oh, show me. Here.
And they left, and I started working on the kids. And I couldn't find a pulse, and neither one of them was breathing. And I started on the little girl first after water out, as much water out of her as I could, and then started breathing and doing CPR on her. And she revived fairly quickly. And while I was working on him, the little girl got up and headed back towards the water, and I had to stop working on him and go catch her and bring her back and set her down. Finally got her to sit down long enough that I could go back to work on him. I didn't think the little boy was going to make it because I wasn't getting any response. And so, well, he's gone, so I might as well just quit. And I said, no, you can't do that. You've got to keep trying. So I did, and he finally revived. He started coughing up. I got water out of him, but he started coughing and coughed up more water, and pretty soon he was up hollering too.
Things like this you think about happening in another town to other people, not to somebody that you know. I mean, firemen or policemen that are supposed to do things like this, you think about them doing, but not your normal, everyday person, not your husband, not your dad. I was just so proud of him. I wanted the whole world to know that there were 2 babies that was going to get a chance because of what he had done.
True, they were babies, and they hadn't even started life yet. They needed a chance. So I did what I could to see if they could at least get that chance.
For his courage in risking his own life to save 2-year-old Eddie and 3-year-old Alicia, Rudy Berneman was awarded the Carnegie Hero Medal in 1992.
Alicia was in the hospital for 3 days, recovering from her near drowning. Eddie was hospitalized for 3 weeks. He had come as close to death as possible, but thanks to Rudy Berneman, he survived. Miraculously, both children recovered fully, with no permanent damage. Sharon Thompson recently wrote a letter to Rudy, telling him that both children are doing well, enjoying the life given back to them by Rudy Berneman's courage.
Next on Heart of Courage. 2 men risk landing a plane on unstable ice in order to reach a man dying from exposure.
As something out of the past, only alive in old books and movies. But foreman Joseph Gardner, who runs the Douglas Lake Cattle Ranch near Kamloops, British Columbia, knows that cowboys remain the backbone of a large, challenging business. What he didn't know was that he would have to accept an even greater challenge, or one of his cowboys would perish.
On December 7, 1982, 2 cowboys, John Young and Ed Robeson, had been sent out to round up strays who had wandered off from the main herd. With the weather around 15 below zero, the cattle would freeze to death unless they were led to shelter. The 2 men split up to cover more ground, agreeing on the rendezvous point when it was time to head in. John was a cautious man and knew the dangers he faced every day in his work. He also knew there were some things that no amount of caution could predict or prevent. When John didn't show up at the rendezvous point, Ed wasn't worried. He assumed that John had simply traveled too far to make the trip back before nightfall and was bunked down in one of the refuge cabins on the huge ranch. Next morning, when there was still no sign of John, Camp Foreman Joseph Gardner was notified.
The best besides the best one we've got. Hang on a second, excuse me. Yeah, Joe Gardner.
I was phoned by my secretary when she heard about John having spent the night out in those kind of temperatures. She knew that I should know right away.
Look, I'm going to go straight to the airport, all right? I'm on my way.
When I got here, it was already warmed up and the ice had been removed from it, and I was ready to go.
The plane ready? Plane's good, okay. Joe, wait a minute. What?
Joe, listen to me.
It's ready?
Listen to me. The ice is dropping out.
Yeah, I know all that.
No, shut up and listen. You can't land on that ice.
John is out there, right? I need your eyes. You coming with me?
I also asked for volunteers, somebody to come along with me and be a spotter, because you can't both fly the plane and spend all your time looking out the windows. And so Orville Ralston volunteered.
Well, I spent 12 years riding in that country, and I knew it in and out.
Gardner and Ralston's plan was simple. They'd head for the last place John Young had been seen and then try to follow his tracks, if there still were any.
Check that side, man. Check this side. Tracks. Watch out, buddy. Yeah, good. Get it around. Let's go back. Hold up. I'm going to go as low as I possibly can. I'll stay hug the trees if I have to. Maybe if anything, the motor might slow. I don't know what's... But they're just disappearing. I can't see where they're going. All right. Okay.
He sort of went across the meadow and into some trees and then didn't come out the other side of the trees into the next meadow where the trail is. So we knew how far he'd got, but we still didn't know where he was. I really felt that he was probably at one of our cabins up there and warm as a bug in a rug and in no trouble at all. It's just he hadn't been able to make it out for whatever reason, and he'd be okay. We knew he was dressed appropriately, and he certainly knew the country, and so probably there's no fault in the decision made the night before that it was no big deal that he didn't make it back, but in this case it was a big deal.
It's got to be here. It's got to be. Yeah. Oh, but look, it's the cabin. Huh? Let's for a closer look and see if we can see what do you see? No smoke coming from it, man. What? No smoke at all. I don't know if it's there or not. The horse is there. He's not going to do what? The horse isn't going to leave him alone. There he is. There he is. He's on the ground there.
John, in agony and partially paralyzed from a back injury he had suffered when he fell, had been unable to reach the security of the cabin.
God, I hope this lake holds up.
As I remember asking him how thick he thought the ice was, and him asking me how heavy the airplane was. And we really didn't know how thick it was, or whether it would carry us or not. We decided that we'd land, and we didn't think that he'd survive if we didn't. Laying in a snowbank, and obviously he hadn't had the heat on. Something was seriously wrong.
There's water. Pull it up, man. Pull it up.
Much better if we'd had skis on the plane, but we didn't. So we set it up for a precautionary landing where you get all set up, we into the wind and all those kind of things, and try and land with as little speed as possible and with the doors open and the engine turned off. So once we were set up and ready to land, I had the doors popped open a bit so that they couldn't contain us. If something went through the ice or whatever, we'd be able to get out.
John's injuries, coupled with exposure, had brought him to the end of his endurance. Joseph and Orville didn't know if they had reached him in time.
When Orville and I went over to him, he was sort of going in and out of consciousness. He was very cold. His pulse was weak and around 60. I can't remember exactly, but it was very, very low, and we were quite concerned. And we talked about whether we should put him in the cabin and try and warm him up, or whether we should stuff him in the airplane and get him out. And we decided that we should take him out of there. We got John in the plane, and we pointed the plane towards what we thought was the best looking direction to take off. And
Gardner flew John Young to nearby Kamloops Hospital. Young was almost dead when he was admitted, and he remained on the critical list for the next 48 hours. But thanks to Orville Ralston and John Gardner's actions, he would fully recover.
Well, I owe them everything. There's no question about it. But that's the camaraderie, and that's the kind of men that are out here. When you go back into this kind of country under those circumstances, you may think you're riding alone, but there's a whole ranch behind you, and they're always there.
Joseph Gardner and Orville Ralston were awarded Medals of Bravery from the Governor-General of Canada on November 11, 1986.
I felt that we just did what we had to do at the time, and that there probably was some danger involved, or undoubtedly some danger involved, but that it was a chance we had to take at that particular time. And, you know, it was sort of over at that point. I don't think we worried about it very much until it was over.
A man is hurt and lost somewhere in the wilderness. Others put their own lives on the line to do what has to be done to find him and bring him back to safety. John Young is grateful that the sense of courage and caring that forged the West still lives in men like Orville Ralston and Joseph Gardner.
It's all there in black and white. Power 92, today's best music.
In life, it's the simple things that really matter. That's why at Nature's Way Health Products, we start with the basics. Herbs certified organically grown in their natural habitat to guarantee consistency and quality. Quality you'll find in cayenne and many other Nature's Way products, continuously being researched and developed to ensure consumer satisfaction. Basically, the best, because nothing else will do. Nature's Way. Look for the leaf at a health store near you.
Once upon a time, in the land of great Canadian cheeses, where the mighty cheddar burst with flavor.
Wow.
The mild, melted mozzarella flowed. And imagine, it snowed delightful Parmesan. There were gardens of delicious cheeses as far as the eye could see.
It's so good, Mommy.
Of course it is, dear.
Cheese, please.
This is Snow Jammin'. 18 of the coolest hits. Over 60 minutes of great party music, all on one album.
Watch me now!
Get your winter party started with Snow Jammin'. The attitude continues.
On treacherous ice and rescue an injured man in danger of freezing to death. Another man dives into a submerged car and brings 2 drowning children back to life. Rudy Berneman, Joseph Gardner, and Orville Ralston responded to the needs of others and accepted total responsibility for their lives. It is heroism like theirs that shapes the heart of courage. I'm Alex Trebek. Good night.